1/2 inch. We'll crank it down and make sure I use the right wrench. Okay guys, so it looks like we've got yet another Yardmachines by MTD with a Tecumseh engine. So as you can see here, this linkage, it's definitely in the wrong spot. And this spring is way too tight and it's forcing the throttle plate to stay closed. There's absolutely no way that this engine will ever start with this because it's basically being choked completely out. So we'll have to fix this. And this air filter, let's take a look at that. Yeah, this air filter definitely seen much better days, especially with that giant hole in it. So this one, it's junk. As for the fuel, well, it's nice for a change, although it looks like there's a little bit of residue in there. At least it's clean and dry. The oil, however, if you remember from the short, it was a little over full. So I think we need to get this little machine inside out of the heat because it's really hot out here, and get this thing serviced, get that carburetor off, fix those linkages, replace that air filter, and we'll see how it runs. I guess first things first is I could attempt to start it at least, maybe hold that throttle plate a little bit open and see if it'll at least start or kick over, and see how the engine sounds before we go any further. 1 second, let me get the carb spray. Let's see if I can drive this screw in a little bit. Maybe it'll keep the throttle plate open. It's a Torx, but I'm using a Phillips because it's not in very tight. Well, the throttle plate's now open, just a little bit. Hopefully that's enough for it to run. Let's give it a shot of helper sauce and see if it'll run. Yeah, actually it sounds pretty good. So let's get this machine inside and get it serviced. All right, as usual, let's get the spark plug wire off first, and then 11 mil or 7/16. We'll take the exhaust off, maybe. All right, let me get a different wrench. Let's try that again. 7/16. And just use a screwdriver to pull it off the rest of the way. Now we should be able to use a Phillips to be able to remove the intake. Maybe. Nope, that one does not want to come out. So let me be right back. I'm going to grab a number 3 Phillips. All right, number 3 Phillips. Let's get this out. Maybe. There we go. Now it should just pull away. Now, let's take this air breather tube off. And go, come on, don't break that gasket. Come on, gasket, cooperate. Let me see if I can get a little knife. Balance you on there. See if we can't separate it away without damaging it. There. Hopefully it's not damaged. Let's see. Nope, it's good. Perfect. Now this one came off, so that's good, but this spring is kind of stretched out. I'll take this governor linkage off. There. And of course the fuel line. Hopefully there's no fuel in here. Doesn't seem like it. Maybe. All right, now let's open up the carb. Take a look what's in the bowl. So take a 1/2 inch. Take a look at that. A little bit of what looks like fuel residue in the bottom. At least I think that's fuel. Give me one sec. Yeah, actually that is fuel. It actually smells stabilized too. Looks like it's got stabilizer in it or something. Or they poured like that liquid Mikeanic in a bottle that does absolutely nothing. But this bowl looks pretty good. All right, let me get the rest of this apart and get it in the ultrasonic. Let's separate the intake from the carb. So we put a 7/16 or 11 millimeter on this side, and this side takes a 3/8 or 10 millimeter. And there we go. That's that. Spin this off the rest of the way. Next side, same thing, 11 millimeter, 3/8. And we'll spin it off. Right. Okay, we get the bowl off, or not the bowl off, the float. So I'll just use this as a pin, just to push this out a bit. And I should be able to hopefully grip it. Okay, let's push it through this way then. Okay, that is unfair. All right, there's the needle valve. That one has no water in it, so that's a good sign. Needle looks good. Now let's take this apart. Either a Phillips or a 1/4 inch. I'm just going to use 1/4 inch. One more. Take out the straw. Look at that. We got yet another red emulsion tube. Push it out. And of course it gets stuck. So I use a brush. Push the brush up the middle. And then we can pull it out, just like that. This actually looks pretty good. We'll get this in the ultrasonic. I'll spray it off with a bit of carb spray afterwards, but first things first, got a little Tecumseh tool. Since I'm working on so many Tecumsehs, we'll pull out the seat from the needle. There we go. Inspect it. That looks okay, it's not swollen, so we should be able to reuse it. That won't be going in the ultrasonic. I'm going to put that in here, along with the seat, and I'm going to take the bowl gasket as well, and put it in the bag. Save that for after. Alright guys, I'm going to go pop this in the ultrasonic, and I'll turn the camera back on as soon as it's done. All right, see you soon. Hey, look at that, guys. Look what I found. a red subscribe button. If you made it this far into the video, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget, give it a thumbs up. Comment below. I love to read your comments, and I try to reply to as many of them as I can, especially the early ones. All right, guys, back to the video. All right, guys. See you in 10 minutes. Well, that's all done in the ultrasonic. I'm just going to rod out the bowl nut, make sure all the holes are clean, especially this little tiny one right here. Make sure this guy's cleaned out. Yep, that one's cleaned out. This looks nice and clean. Now just down in the middle. Okay, so the middle's all clean. Let's just poke out these little holes in the side. Okay, next thing, let's replace this guy. It's pretty bad. I mean, look at this. It's just going to come right off. There it goes. Lovely. How much left of that one? There's the new primer bulb. That's the idle screw. I took it out of the carburetor, that way I could set it after. Now to pick out the remains of this primer bulb. Pretty simple. Just have to get under this little lip and pull out the remains. Now that retaining ring broke. And that's it for the nipple. Get the new one lined up. There we go, the new one's lined up. Put the retaining ring. Now let me just locate a 3/4 socket so we can bang it in. There we go, 3/4 socket. Now let me just get the hammer to hammer that in. Give it a couple whacks just to knock it in place. And there you go. New primer bulb and retaining ring has now been installed. And if you're worried, don't hit it very hard. It doesn't need to be pounded in. I'm using a small hammer with soft hands and I'm able to get it in no problem. So you don't need anything big. Sorry about that. My camera had died because apparently I used up all the space. So as I was saying, you don't need a big hammer to knock this in. Just a 3/4 socket and a small hammer. All right, let's get this finished assembled. So we'll get the air intake on, pop on the straw, put the adapter on for the filter, spikies, those go in 1 and 2, and you can use a Phillips or a 1/4 inch. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch. Start that side, and I'm going to snug it down. I'm going to snug this one down and then just give it a small crank just to make sure it's seated. They don't need to go on hard because you're just compressing plastic. Let's get the idle screw in. Now when you do this, this lawnmower does not idle like most lawnmowers. So all you need to do is poke it through a couple threads just so it doesn't fall out. And that's it. If you go too far, you can actually start to cause the engine to, if you notice, starts to open the throttle plate. So you actually will affect the idle and the running of this engine. So if the engine tried to shut itself down, say running too much out of control, it can't. So we just keep a couple threads poked through, and that's it. We'll get the emulsion tube in, but I'm missing the rubber O-ring on the end. That's a problem. Good thing I got a bunch of these emulsion tubes. There we go, got the new O-ring on there. Well, not a new O-ring, I just changed the emulsion tube. Now I'll use the Tecumseh tool, and I'll just push it down and in. And that's it. Next, let's get that seat back in. So we'll take the Tecumseh tool, and you'll notice there's a flat side and a ridge side. The flat side goes up, and you just slide it down and in. And you push and push until it's all the way seated. And there we go, it's all the way seated. Next, we're going to put the needle on the bowl, on the float. I don't know why I keep calling it a bowl. And lower it in. Put the pin. Drop the pin and try it again. There we go. That's in. I haven't forgotten. Put the bowl gasket on. At least this is right. It's the bowl gasket. I don't know why I keep calling the float the bowl. It's a mystery to me. I just make up different terms for it. So yeah, it's clearly the bowl. And see if it sits flush. It's still not sitting flush. Bend it a bit more. Now one minor adjustment. And it's sitting flush. Sorry, sitting level. Sitting level. That's the term I meant to use. Next, if you look, you see this little nipple sticking up, and you'll see this little indent. They line up, and then we put on the bowl nut. Half inch, we'll crank it down, and make sure I use the right wrench. There we go. That's on. Now, let's get the air intake on. And these tits stick up. We'll put this bolt in first, this time around, instead of the other side. We'll just snug that by hand. And now the next one. This is the RPM control ear. So it sits on this side where the fuel line is. And we keep it straight up and down. This is how we control the RPM of the engine. I'll explain in a minute once we get this together. So if you remember earlier in the video when this was on the mower and the linkages were wrong and this was kept slammed shut. And that was because this spring was just pulling the governor completely shut. If we weren't in that sort of scenario, this at least would be set open and the governor would be what would close it. Now as the engine's running in its wide open throttle position, this tab here, if you bend it towards the governor, it will lower the RPM, and if you pull it away, it will increase the RPM. Let's crank these down, get them nice and tight, and get this back on the engine. So put 11 mil on this side, and we'll snug it up with 3/8. See if we can do it without the 11 mil on this side. Now we'll give it a little bit of a crank. This side cranked on, and that's it. All done. I'm just going to straighten this up. All right, that's it. That carburetor's all assembled. Let's get it back on the mower. All right, guys, let's get this carburetor reinstalled. Let's get this governor linkage. We'll put the fuel line on, because otherwise it's a pain to get on afterwards. That clip's not holding. Let me see if I can find another one. Yeah, that's a much better fuel line clamp. Much tighter. Okay, let's get the fuel line on. Fuel line clamp. Perfect. In place. Air hose. Sorry, breather hose. Now we can get these linkages in and do it properly this time, so we're not slamming this shut. So how was it? It was held this way and we put, no. I don't know what that person was thinking. They should have taken pictures. This is why if you're going to do things on your own and it's your first time doing it, take lots of pictures. It's very important and it's very easy. And you usually have a phone on you. This way you can make sure that you put the linkages back in the right place so you don't end up in that same situation that whoever it was that had this mower before me basically put themselves in. Also, I'm going to see about scraping off some of this muck here. It'll probably come off with a good washing, pressure washer, but might as well, since I'm right here, just give it a quick scraping. When I clean this mower, I'm going to remove the shroud. This way I can get all of it cleaned off, top, bottom, whatever. I always do that sort of thing before I sell it because I want it to look its best when I sell it. Plus, a clean mower means that it's not going to be trapping in heat. All the dirt does is it causes heat to be trapped inside the mower, which can eventually lead to its early demise. Let's get this linkage on. So it hooks into this top hole. And the bottom part goes through this hole here. If it wants to. Let's try that again. I'll hook it on top after. And there. Now we hook it through the top. Maybe, if I can find the hole. There it is. And this linkage passes in behind. Normally I put this on after because it has a habit of just falling off 100,000 times as I go to put the carb back on, but I'm going to take a chance this time. If it doesn't run at its proper speed after I get it installed because the spring is a little bit stretched out, I can always adjust it using that little flap by bending it backwards to increase the speed or towards the governor to decrease the speed. Okay, and then we take the number 3 Phillips. I'm just going to thread it in a couple turns. First one. Now the second one. And I'm going to snug them down. Now these normally get tightened down to about 60 inch-pounds, but that's usually about what you can do by hand. We call it trade tight. It's about 60 to 70 inch-pounds of force that the average person can put in with a screwdriver. Now to put on the muffler, that's a 7/16. You can also use 11 millimeter. Top one's in a bit. Bottom one's threading. Perfect. Snug these down. And these as well, about 60 inch-pounds. Perfect. That's done. Now we just need the air filter. Here's the air filter housing, and here's the air filter. And that's the part number. Now let's take off this little bit of juicy thing.
We're waiting.
Yeah, I know you guys are waiting. Okay. I'll just take it off. There you go. Now we'll get it installed. There we go. Air filter's in place. Only thing left to do, of course, is an oil change. So I'm gonna get the extraction pump. It's a little noisy, yes. But look at that. Linkage actually moves quite nicely now. Perfect. Let me get the extraction pump. This way we can get the oil changed.
Oh, hi there, mechanic. Are you gonna change my oil?
Oh, hello, Mr. MTD Mower. Yes, actually, I am going to be changing your engine oil. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that'll be good. I'd really appreciate that.
Oh, good. All right, you can go back to sleep now. I don't want to hurt you while I'm performing surgery. So go back to sleep. This way we can get your engine oil all changed out. And I can even take your blade off and sharpen it if that's okay.
That'll be good if you change my blade instead. It's not the greatest of blades that's left on there. Someone left it too long, and it's gotten really dull. I'd recommend, in fact, I'd prefer a brand new blade.
Oh, excellent. I'm glad that's going to be okay for you to have a nice sharp blade and nice clean oil. And don't worry, before we start you up, I'm going to make sure that you get some good gas put in. I actually have some gas that's got some two-stroke oil that you may enjoy. I know my Craftsman that's outside really does enjoy the two-stroke oil in his gas.
I could really do some two-stroke in me. I wouldn't mind that at all.
All right then, Mr. Mower. Good night. Well, that was unexpected. I wasn't expecting the mower to talk to me. All right, let's get that engine oil changed. Good news, Todd. I finally got a new pitcher. Or at least measuring cup. So this is much better for doing these smaller oil changes. Oh, wow. Look at all that oil in there. Holy cow. Let's double check that. Yeah. It is definitely overfilled. It won't be once we're done. Okay, put that in. Okay guys, loud noise is imminent. That's about done. Takes a little bit, but far less messy than trying to dump it out under the drain hole or trying to put it over and dumping it out of the fill tube. I have done that too. The Tecumseh LV105, which this engine is, takes 620 milliliters of oil, or this many in Freedom units. Let's fill it up to 620 mil. And pour that in the engine. There we go. It's about 620 mil. Okay, we'll leave it there for 1 sec. We'll let it set. Pretty close. Do that one more time. I'd say we're full. Perfect. Let's check one more time now that I lowered the mower back down properly and level and flat. I guess we can add that last little bit. Excellent. One more time. And we're at the right level. Excellent. Screw seems a little bit loose. I'm gonna have to tighten that up. So 5/16. You can also use 8mm. There we go. That's much better. Now I should stop flopping around. Excellent. All right, the only thing left to do is get this thing outside and try cutting some grass with it. All right, let's get to it. Okay guys, we're outside. Beautiful day. Sun shining and we want to see if this mower runs. So let's add some fuel and try firing it up. And since this video is brought to you by Forgotten Spark Plug, we won't forget it. Right, a few primes.
What?
Hello. Right, let's see if it starts. Back to life, look at that! Well, pardon the smoke, because I can see oil actually dripping out of the exhaust, so I know there's a bit of oil in there. We'll just let that sit and burn off for a few. Looks like there's already a lot less smoke coming out. Okay, I'm going to get my tachometer and see what this engine's running at. And we'll let it smoke off for a little bit. There's a bag for this! I forgot, there's a bag for this. There we go. Get her started. So not bad, eh guys? I'd say that's a win. That mower works perfect. Future Mechanic here, and this is the metal that I had to bend out a bit, as you can see, as this cable apparently had stretched a little. I tried to find a replacement cable, but the one I ended up ordering was a little bit too short, and MTD no longer has this cable at all. Awesome, right? So I had to make a minor modification, but works great now. Saved yet another Tecumseh engine. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it ain't a power mower, so I'll count that as a win. All right, guys. See you in the next one. Let's see how well this little bag did, shall we? I'd say it worked out pretty good. Well, this thing's going away, so until I can get it cleaned up and listed for sale. Oh, spark plug off. Bye, guys.